What 1960s sitcom achieved cult status after only being on the air for 3 seasons? And what does that have to do with retro cooking? Aloha everyone! Welcome to YesterKitchen, where we learn history through food. I'm Jill, and before we get started, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're starting a brand new series and I know you're going to want to see all of it. So, speaking of series, I'm so excited! Today I am starting a new 4-part series that I like to call Retro TV Food Faves, and it will be. I'm going to take, every week, I'm going to take a decade, 50s, 60s, 70s, and 80s, and I'm going to celebrate one show that was insanely popular during that time. And then we're going to make a dish that's related to the show. So come along, it's going to be so much fun. By the time we're done, you will have an appetizer, a main dish, a dessert, and a cocktail or two. I'm not going to really go in order because I just can't. So today I'm going to start with the 1960s and the dessert. And I am going to talk about 7 passengers and a 3-hour very unlucky tour that landed in an island somewhere off the coast of Hawaii. And 7 passengers that just never got rescued. Yep, Gilligan's Island, one of my favorites, hopefully one of your favorites too. Gilligan's Island was on the air from 1964 to 1967, and those 98 episodes are still going strong today. As a matter of fact, they're probably more popular than they ever were because at the very beginning, the critics didn't like Gilligan's Island at all. But the fans sure did, and that's what kept them going. And the reason they never got rescued, they were supposed to have a 4th season. And at the very end, it was canceled to make room for a new show called Gunsmoke. So they kind of like never, but then they had their TV movies where they wound up getting rescued, then back on the island and rescued, and anyway, you know the story, I know the story. I will tell you that a lot of times I'm talking to like 19 and 20-year-olds and they don't know what Gilligan's Island is, so we need to help them because we can't let Gilligan's Island fade into the memories. It's too awesome. So when I think of Gilligan's Island, you know, they always were eating, and the girls, Marianne and Ginger, don't worry, we're gonna get to them, were always cooking. And the thing that stood out in my memory the most is that they were always making coconut cream pies. If someone was sad, they got one. If someone's birthday, they got one. And there was always a pie that landed in someone's face. So we are going to do a coconut cream pie today that's so good. And as a matter of fact, it comes from, I'll show you up close, the Gilligan's Island Cookbook. And it was created by none other than Dawn Wells, who played Marianne. And in this is just, if you can get your hands on one of these cookbooks, get it, because the whole book is so awesome. And it has 13 coconut cream pie recipes in it. So I decided to test them, and I picked my favorite. My favorite's going to be Professor's favorite coconut cream pie. One, super easy to make, super, super good. And Professor, well, I always thought he was really cute. So there you go. Yeah. So anyway, we're going to put this book aside and we are going to start making our pie. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have a baked pie crust. So you want the pastry pie crust. The graham cracker probably wouldn't taste very good. It wouldn't work with the coconut cream. So we want a baked pie crust. And you can either get something already made. You can buy the frozen kind that are in the tin shells that you just have to bake. This happens to be a rolled dough. Just put it in the pie shell and bake it. Which is why it looks so lousy, because I'm not very good at pie crust, but this thing looks very homemade and that's what we're going for anyway. So we're going to take that, make sure it's cool, and set it aside. The other thing we're going to get is about 1/3 of a cup of flaked coconut that we've already toasted. How do you toast it? It's right there. So now we're going to start our pie filling. We're going to take in a saucepan. This is actually bigger than you need, but I'm doing this so you can see, but you can do a smaller one if you want, or you can do this size if you want. It all works. First thing we're going to do is we're going to take a 1/4 cup of cornstarch. In it goes. Look, let's get all of it. Because this is our thickener, so you don't want to not have all of it. Then we're going to take 2/3 cup of sugar. And we're going to take a 1/4 teaspoon of salt. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to mix this first. And for this recipe, you're going to want to whisk because it's just not going to work with a spoon. You're not going to be able to break up the cornstarch and incorporate it into all the other ingredients that we're going to do. So you're just going to kind of literally whisk it in the pan, and I'm going to get this pan started. Okay, so now what you're going to do is you're going to add 2 cups of whole milk into this mixture. And this is where you really need a whisk, because if you just mixed it with a spoon, you would get a very, very lumpy mix. So you're going to start whisking this around. And you're just going to cook this until it gets thick. You can see right now it's just very, very soupy and milk. So we're going to cook this maybe for about 5 or 10 minutes. I'll let you know what it is when we come back, and then we'll finish the pie. Okay, so my mixture took about 4 or 5 minutes to really thicken up. And as you can see, it's kind of looking like pudding, and that's what you want. You want to cook with the whisk. You want to really babysit this because it will seize up like that if you're not stirring. So you don't have to stir constantly, but you do have to stir often. And you can kind of feel it when it's getting started. You'll feel like a film on your whisk at the bottom of the pan, and then it'll start getting really thick. So here we go. So now what we're going to do is I've got 3 egg yolks, no whites, just the egg yolks. And we're just going to mix it around a tiny bit. And then you want to temper it. Well, that pretty much means getting your egg yolks to the temperature of your custard, or else you're going to get scrambled eggs, and that's not, who wants that? So, turn this down. So I'm going to put a little bit of the mixture in, and you want to just stir it really quickly. And then back into the pot it goes. And now you want to whisk it again for 1 minute, and here's where you do want to whisk it constantly and really press your whisk down on the bottom of the pan because you want to loosen up whatever is sticking to the bottom. Okay, so that's been about a minute. And now see, now it's starting to get that beautiful yellow color. And this is where everything else gets added in. You're going to add in 2 tablespoons of butter. And just whisk that around and let the butter start melting. And you don't want this on a high heat. Just once it's all custardy, turn down your heat. And you're going to add a teaspoon of vanilla. Oh, that was loud. And you're going to add a 1.5 cups of coconut. The actual recipe was just for a cup of coconut, but I tried it and I really felt it needed more coconut. I mean, it is a coconut cream pie after all. And this is Gilligan's Island after all. So in goes, well, now we can get rid of our whisk and go to a spatula. And in goes our coconut. 1.5 cups. And then pretty much what you do is you turn off your fire. Oh, I went the wrong way. Turn off your fire. Mix it all in. And once you see that butter melted, you're kind of done, but you do need to cool off your custard. So I'm going to stir this for a little bit. Before you say anything, I'm purposely not wearing a lei. I put them back there because I was afraid it would mess with the sound. And where's my martini glass? Well, today it was replaced by my little tiki torch because we got to keep things island happy, right? So now, this is our custard. Look at that. It's beautiful. We're going to get rid of that fire. Now what I do, what you need to do, is you need to cool it down. But you can't, it's going to take a while to cool down, about a half hour. Because you want to cover it to cool. So when you cover it to cool, of course, it's going to take longer. But you don't want that, that thick skin forming that does on puddings. You don't want that in your pie. So cover we go. Here, I'll show you. Here we go. Bye-bye, custard. Cover we go. What I normally do is I put it on a burner that has not been lit for a while. And that way you have the bottom that's kind of will be cooling off. If I leave it on the counter right here, it's trapping the heat. So I'm going to go ahead and put it on a burner. You can put it on a cooking rack. You can put it wherever where the bottom can be exposed a little bit. And we will be back when it's done. But first, Marianne or Ginger, the age-old question. So I did a random poll on my Facebook page and my Instagram page. And Marianne won hands down like 4-1. So how about you, Marianne or Ginger? I'd love to hear if my poll's accurate. So we're gonna be right back. We're gonna keep celebrating 1960 TV, and we're gonna keep celebrating Gilligan's Island. And maybe I will find that martini glass. I'll see you in a few. Okay, we are back, and we are still making that easy coconut cream pie recipe celebrating Gilligan's Island. Gilligan's Island. Did you know what the professor's real name was? Roy Hinckley, PhD. Did you know what the skipper's name was? Jonas Grumby. Now, Mr. Howell always called Mrs. Howell Lovey. A lot of people thought it was a nickname, but nope, that was her real name, Lovey Howell. So, our coconut custard, look at this. It is thick, it is cool, and it is spectacular, and it's so good. You want to probably lift up the lid every 3 or 4 minutes and give it a stir so it doesn't get clumpy. And mine took about 20 minutes to cool. Yours may vary, just keep checking. When it's between lukewarm and the little starting to get cool off, that's the perfect time. So you can top your pie with whipped cream. I have whipped cream here. I love to make whipped cream. So if you want to know how I made my whipped cream, but the aerosol whipped cream will work fine. The frozen whipped topping, well, defrost it, will work fine. Just anything to make it a coconut cream pie. So we're going to push our custard over there. And full disclosure, I broke this in between. But you know what? It's real, it's homemade, and that's what goes on in our kitchen is reality. So perfection isn't always a good thing. So here is our beautiful pie crust. But don't worry, by the time we're done with it, it is going to be. So all you're going to do now is you're going to take all your coconut custard and put it into your pie shell. So are you a Gilligan's Island fan? What's your favorite episode? I think my favorite episode is where the Howells had the cotillion, and when Mr. Howell was handing out all the invitations, the skippers got lost in the bushes, so everyone thought he wasn't invited, and no one went. And then at the end, of course, it was all a big happy ending after all. Oh, look! I found my martini glass. We'll take care of that as soon as this show is done. But right now it's time for some whipped cream. So here's my whipped cream, and you can just kind of make whatever design you want. I'm kind of a fan of these little cute little stars because they're small, they're easy, and whipped cream goes everywhere. Wonder how many whipped cream pies they went through, because you know it wasn't real coconut cream pie when it was going in someone's face. Wonder how many whipped cream pies they went through. So, the SS Minnow, right? That tragic boat. Do you know it now resides in British Columbia? Kind of weird. You'd think it would be in Hawaii somewhere at a museum, but nope. Okay, so we've got all these beautiful, tons of whipped cream. See? We're covering up that pie crust already. All right, now all that we need to do that's left is take that toasted coconut that we have and sprinkle it around. Look at that. And I'll tell you something, it tastes as good as it looks. It's just pretty awesome. Okay, that's probably enough. You don't have to use everything. So here it is. And it's so easy. It's just a little time consuming because you're waiting a little while, waiting for the custard to boil, then waiting for it to cool. But look how easy that was. Easy coconut cream pie. Celebrating Gilligan's Island. Look at that. So that was part one. And now we have our dessert. And we have saluted the 1960s. Thank you, Gilligan's Island, for ever being on TV. I'm a huge fan. I know there's a lot of fans out there. Tell me your favorite Gilligan's Island episode. Tell me how much you love coconut cream pie. Next week, we're going to travel even further back in time to the 50s and celebrate one of the most popular sitcoms that has ever been on TV. It involves a beautiful redhead and a very handsome Cuban. What could it possibly be? But for now, thank you for joining me. Please hit subscribe so you don't miss anything else. And I will see you next week in the 1950s. Thanks so much for tuning into YesterKitchen, where history has never tasted so good.